I am Laurel Sterling. Anybody here new? Never been to Natur-Tyme? One? Okay. A couple of them? Okay, welcome. Well, on your seat, there are some pads to write on, take notes if you like, and some information about the store, as well as some samples of one of the magnesiums I'm going to be talking about. So I'm the registered dietitian here, and I'm also the one that does a lot of the lectures in here and out in the community. I also have one-on-one counseling, and it's a free service of the store, so if you're interested in that, you can get my cards out at the vitamin center desk area, and they can set you up with an appointment out there. And I do consulting on a variety of different issues, not just dietetic, all sorts of health issues that people come in to see me about. So has anybody heard anything significant about magnesium before now? As far as, I mean, you may learn a lot today, you may not. I want to say at the outset, I did a lot of my information from some different websites, but mainly the Magnesium Miracles. Anybody read this? Okay, so this is a very informative book. This is by Carolyn Dean. She's an MD and an ND also. And there's a whole host of information. I only took little bits out of it. There's so much more in here about the foods and all sorts of, she gets in depth about cholesterol, hypertension, all different disorders and how magnesium would help and what it would do and the amounts to take. So I'm only giving you a little snapshot of that. Now I want to let you know also that I let people ask questions throughout because sometimes you just don't remember until the end, especially if there's a specific slide that's confusing. Raise your hand, and if I don't see you, just say, I've got a question back here. So we can address it then, and we don't have to wait till the end. So, okay, so I'm going to start. So what is so miraculous about magnesium? How many people here already take magnesium? Almost everyone. There's just a few that aren't. Okay, great. So, I mean, you can let me know at the end, too, or share with others if you'd like to. If other people have questions that something maybe you're taking or doing that's helping might address it. So did you know that there is one mineral that regulates over 300 enzymes in the body? The same mineral has thousands of pages of scientific therapeutic value in treating such issues such as anxiety, panic attacks, depression, fatigue, hypertension, migraines, musculoskeletal, nerve problems, and so many more that I did not list. So what's that so-called miracle? Well, magnesium, of course. So this vital mineral is very vital to life and health, and it's simple, and it's very easily obtained. And, you know, like I was reading and saying, this is just so simple. I was actually on Bridge Street talking about this, too. And it's one of those things that you typically don't think of a go-to because it's so basic. But I remember when I was walking a client out to get some of our Natur-Tyme magnesium that's on sale, and I believe it's still on sale. And my issue, I was having a lot of long-term stressors, and then I started having sleep issues and fatigue. And then the last thing that came were these twitches. I started getting facial, like around my eye, and then I would get one on my lip, and they weren't going away. And I thought, this is insane. I'm not going to put up with this. So as I was walking out grabbing it for her, I just said, oh, it's on sale. And I just picked up a bottle and grabbed it for myself. Now, I have been dealing with issues and taking different things for adrenal fatigue, herbal issues, or herbal extracts, and extra B vitamins, and a whole host of other things. In the winter, I was sick probably from October until April. It just kind of went at a high grade, low grade. I never completely got over it. And I was talking with Carol, our other wellness educator, and she said, don't you know all that extra stress you're dealing with is going to put a real lag on your adrenals? And she said, how much are you helping your adrenals? I said, geez, I'm taking all these things for my immune system, and I'm taking these herbals for my adrenals, and nothing's helping. And it wasn't clicking. So simple, the magnesium that I took years ago, that I kind of let go to the wayside. And so when I started taking it, that very night that I took it, I slept from, I think it was 10 o'clock till 5 or 6. So it was a solid 7 to 8 hours. And I remember I woke up and I went, ah, I can't believe I just slept a solid, 7 to 8 hours straight through. That's not normal for me. And I was actually, and that continues too. And if my daughter happens to get me up through the night, which that's a typical, so it usually took me 2-3 hours to get back to sleep. And with the magnesium, I started noticing that I would be up for maybe at the most 20 minutes, and then I would get right back into sleep. And I would also have more dreams, and I would remember them. So that meant I was getting into more of my REM sleep. So as you'll see, one of the things that magnesium does for sleep is it actually helps make melatonin. So instead of just taking that one hormone of melatonin, you should take the things that drive and push the production of it. Same thing with serotonin. Instead of taking other things like 5-HTP, taking something like magnesium, which pushes the production of serotonin. So going backwards to the basic things, the basic minerals. So now when I'm actually consulting people and I start asking them a whole host of questions, how's your sleep, your stress, how do your bowels move, how's your energy level, and if a lot of those are all off, then I usually say, here's where we need to start. And typically, it is like the one big thing that helps. And some people, that's it. That's taken care of it, and they don't need to go any further. Others, not so. So magnesium's history was first discovered in deposits near a Greek city called Magnesia. And magnesium sulfate, which is magnesium plus sulfur, which is your Epsom salts, was used as a laxative in those ancient times, which if you take too much, what does it do? Causes the bowels to relax too much. It causes all smooth muscles, heart, lungs, GI tract, all of it to relax. Now there are certain forms that are more readily absorbed than others, such as the, well, I should probably wait and get into that when I talk about the GI tract, but there are certain ones, and that's where I will let you know the differences. So what does magnesium do? As I said earlier, it regulates more than 325 enzymes, which are protein-driven molecules in the body. Most importantly, these enzymes assist in producing, transporting, storing, and utilizing energy. So one of the number one things, if someone has fatigue, what do we go to? Magnesium. Necessary for the synthesis of protein, which again, these protein molecules need magnesium. 60% of Americans are deficient, which is a huge number. And I'm going to talk about the testing issues later on too. So more facts about magnesium. 60 to 65% of our bones and teeth hold magnesium. 35 to 40% in muscle tissue and the body fluids. And the highest concentrations found in the heart and in the brain cells. And that's why there's this one specific testing that's the most accurate that is available out there that tests, it scrapes the inside of your cheek, and practitioners can do that in the office, and that tests more so the magnesium found in the brain and the heart versus the blood draw. Physiological roles of magnesium: nerve action regulation, so thus the activity of the heart and the neuromuscular transmission, vascular tone, blood pressure, peripheral blood flow, and calcium regulation. Yes? You can do in your doctor's offices, you can get the blood one, but that's really not accurate because only 1% of the magnesium is found in the blood. So that's the serum test that they do. So you typically wouldn't show up deficient in that. It's the buccal scrapings. It's called the EXA test that practitioners can do. And then there's another one, which is the ionic, which is very expensive and not typically out there and known. So hopefully that'll become more readily available, but it's not now. Clinical impacts: magnesium was found to help with anxiety, asthma, blood clots, constipation, cystitis, depression, detoxification, which is important for everything, diabetes, fatigue, heart issues, hypertension, hypoglycemia, insomnia, migraines, musculoskeletal, nerves, and more. Like I said, in different things, like diabetes, it helps get the glucose into the cells better. Fatigue, with the regulation of all those different systems, those enzymes that help regulate the energy production. Heart, that's dealing with the nerve impulse transmission. Hypertension, hypoglycemia, depression, as I was saying before, it helps push serotonin. Constipation, well, that's, pretty self-explanatory. The asthma, it helps to relax the lungs. And actually, I was talking to Andrew, who's the Manager in the vitamin area. And one time, I don't know if he went to the hospital, but he was working in a hospital, and his dad is a nurse as well, and said that that's usually what they'll treat if someone comes in with a severe asthma attack. They just magnesium right into the bloodstream, and it just relaxes. Anxiety, again, helps with calming the nerves. There are specific ones that I'm going to talk about too that I didn't have in my presentation. The magnesium L-threonate, which is supposed to cross the blood-brain barrier more efficiently. So that's a newer one. Importance of calcium-magnesium balancing. Magnesium and calcium are antagonists. So many enzymatic activities are magnesium dependent, and if there is an excess of calcium present, these can be compromised. So this is something that I forgot to try at home, but it's something that you can try. It was in her book. She recommends crushing a calcium pill and see, oh, that's misspelled, and see how much dissolves in about an ounce of water. Then what you should do is crush a magnesium pill and stir it in, and the remaining calcium should go into dissolution, so it makes it more water soluble. So that's how they will work together. That's good. That's what you want. You want to have it like. No, well, no, it's saying that it's helping to pull it. If you have too much calcium, you'll see as I talk through some more slides, it'll clarify itself. So now think about what happens in your blood, heart, kidneys, and brain. These are calcifications. So if it starts precipitating into the soft tissue and not going into the blood, the bones, and the other areas that it's supposed to go into, that it will cause things like kidney stones, okay? Heart calcifications in the brain. Some people get those, what are they called? Those little, I think they're cysts, but they're like, what's that? No. Yeah, but yeah, that would help. That would increase that too with more that's not being absorbed systemically into the body. So ancient versus modern diets. The current standard American SAD diet in the soils can contribute to magnesium, preventing magnesium from being absorbed very well, which I'm going to go through these individual in the next few slides. Oversupplementation of calcium and meds that also deplete can make it difficult getting enough magnesium into the diet. And research shows that calcium to magnesium ratio in the Paleolithic caveman times was about a 1-to-1, and compared to modern times, which can range from a 5-to-1 to a 15-to-1, okay, with too much calcium, not enough magnesium. So, increasing the need for magnesium. In 1988, a U.S. governmental study stated that the standard American diet failed to improve daily requirements of magnesium. Now, the RDA, RDI, they are the base levels to cover your basic needs. This doesn't include anybody that has extra stressors on medications, illnesses, all sorts of other issues where that would increase your need and demand for magnesium. Mildred Selig, which is a doctor, as well as other magnesium experts, found that the need for magnesium is increased due to the standard American diet, high fat, sugar, salt, phosphates, which is rich in these typically, and protein. And also there was this demand for more calcium. So a lot of times also with women postmenopausal, they were saying, well, yeah, calcium. And then they were finding, gee, why were the heart attacks increasing with that? Well, it's the form. They were telling them too much. It wasn't getting pulled into the body where it needed to. Instead, it was lodging in the soft tissues, causing heart attacks, strokes, and whatnot. So that's why you need the extra magnesium and the D to help bring it into the cells. So a possible solution? Well, the World Health Organization looked into adding optimal calcium and magnesium to bottled products as a recommendation in 2008. Now, you do have products out there like the mineral water, which is great. That's going to have a lot of the minerals in there. There's all these electrolyte waters out there that are going to have calcium, magnesium, potassium, whatnot in there. So make sure you get those, again, in a balance. So do you need more magnesium? Does this person? I think so. Does she need more magnesium? This gentleman does, and how about them? They both need, they all need more magnesium. So many of us do, and we don't even realize it. We're exhausting our bodies. We are running at a rapid pace, and we are using up our physical stores of energy faster than we can replace them. We're straining our body's capacity to function and heal. Sleeping is the time when we're supposed to be detoxing and healing and repairing and mending. If we're not sleeping well, it's just this whole vicious circle. So if we can't change our lifestyle, we can preserve and rebuild our energy levels naturally with more magnesium. Now, some of you have probably seen in my other presentations, I talk about the stress cascade, but some of you haven't. Again, stress is a huge piece in this. Some individuals may let their stressors out and let it go. Other people internalize it, and it can be internalized in many different ways. Some people get migraines, some get gastrointestinal issues. It varies. But typically what's happening is the hypothalamus in the brain signals the pituitary to release the stress hormone ACTH. And that stress hormone releases more cortisol. So cortisol is your fat-storing hormone. It's something where if your body thinks it's in a constant fight or flight, it also increases the demand for sugar in the body, so that's why you might have more cravings, more cortisol, you're not sleeping well, more cortisol, so it's this vicious circle again. And this is a good thing initially if there's stress that's very short term, but if it's long term, it continues into this pro-inflammatory cascade of effects. And so this response triggers the body to excrete amino acids and many minerals and electrolytes. And the body becomes so depleted and you can't keep up with the store. So you need more demands or more supplementation. So the three phases, alarm, acute, and chronic. The first, the alarm, the body prepares for stress. So this is like if you saw an accident happening or if someone cut you off, it's the initial and then stressors are taken off because everybody was safe, so you go back to just living your normal daily life that hopefully isn't that stressful. And so the adrenals kind of calm down with their functioning. The second phase is when it persists for a longer period of time. When it's, say, a couple days to maybe a few weeks, the adrenals adapt in their size, increasing their size and function. And then, you know, it gets to a point where your body can't take it anymore. They've grown bigger. They've produced as much as they can. Then they start sapping the reserves from anywhere in the body, of robbing minerals and nutrients, and just to try to keep it going, just saying, calm down, relax, we're okay. Calm down, relax, but it's not happening. Usually the end product of this is the chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia type sufferers. So hopefully we got you before that. So this is before magnesium, and this is after. So other causes of low magnesium, and I'll get into each of these individually. Our intake of magnesium-rich foods is low. The soil mineral content is low. Medications deplete, and impaired digestion and sweating also excretes a lot more magnesium. So foods rich in magnesium, and there's a whole host of other ones other than this list. Nuts like almonds, walnuts, pecans, beans, a lot of your greens, very rich, very alkalizing. All these are, except for some of the nuts, are mostly alkalizing. Seeds, sunflower, pumpkin seeds, there's brewer's yeast, there's wheat germ, there's a whole host of other things like dulse, kelp, that have more magnesium in there as well. And I'm going to get further into, you have to watch with certain foods. There may be some things that would inhibit the absorption of those. Also deficient soils. Large commercial farms don't add magnesium-rich fertilizer to the depleted soils. They're not doing the crop rotation like they used to do, whereas you might have hay one year, you might have alfalfa another year, you might do soy, you might do corn the following year. And so you're rotating and you're constantly giving back to the soils. But they're constantly just doing the same crop on the same land. So those soils are not getting repleted with other things they're being stripped of. And usually they just put back nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium into those soils. And that disrupts the magnesium absorption. So the foods are more magnesium deficient, and it further depleting the magnesium with processing and cooking, which I get into later. So the Journal of the American College of Nutrition in 2004, there was a study done by the USDA on the nutritional status of 43 garden crops. They assessed levels of protein, calcium, phosphorus, iron, riboflavin, and ascorbic acid. And in this research, they compared nutrient levels from the 1950s to levels in 2004. Now, the Senate had already documented that there were already significant deficiencies in our food supply. This was in the 1950s. So from 1950 to 2004, there was a further decline in nutrients in the crops that they looked at. after the 50s. So there was a decrease in 6% of protein and 38% in riboflavin. So there was further deficiencies. And one researcher commented, perhaps more worrisome would be declines in nutrients we could not study because they were not reported in the 1950s, like magnesium, zinc, B6, E, dietary fiber, not to mention phytochemicals. This was pretty interesting when I was reading about André Voisin, a French biochemist and farmer. In 1963, he wrote Grass Tetany. Grass tetany is a metabolic disease of cattle and goats caused by a deficiency of magnesium in the soil. The animals developed irritability, staggering, tremors, and spasms. The animals also can fall down in convulsions if frightened or excited. So that's like their adrenals were on, hyper alert. So low levels of magnesium were found in these animals that displayed these behaviors, and the condition was reversed by injections of magnesium. Fertilizer. There's this fertilizer called Potage, a potassium product used since the 1930s. It's cheap, easy, readily absorbed. This absorption of potassium is favored over magnesium and calcium. Nutrients in the foods are not routinely measured, so the soil content might be high with magnesium, but the fertilizer, because of what it has in there that competes with it, the potassium, will deplete it further. Processing of foods also. During the refining process, significant amounts of magnesium can be lost. Nuts and seeds, in the extracting of oils, it strips magnesium. Grains, in the milling to white flour, the bran and the germ are removed, which hold much of the magnesium. So 24 milligrams found in one slice of whole wheat bread, 6 milligrams in one slice of white. Vegetables, boiling process leaches magnesium into the water. The amount of magnesium lost in processing, so for instance, when you're looking at refining flour from wheat, 80% magnesium is lost. Polishing of rice, 83%. Starch, getting the starch from corn, 97%. And white sugar, getting it from molasses, 99% of the magnesium is lost. Fluoridated water, and also other things fluoridated, like toothpaste and whatnot, and mouth rinse washes. Fluoride seeks out magnesiums like magnesium, and it binds with it, so it competes with sites. So this makes magnesium unavailable to the body. So that's just one thing that you have to worry about. And I know with some of the issues I had with my teeth, I grew up with well water. I didn't have any fluoride in the water. And my teeth tend to be very soft with the enamel, prone to more cavities. And my dentists have been asking me for years to start using fluoride toothpaste or some rinse or something, and I said, I'm not going to be using that. So I finally I conceded, and I found a Tom's of Maine fluoride rinse, because I thought, okay, if I just rinse it in my mouth and then spit it out, then I'm not swallowing it at all. So because I was having more and more cavities popping up, and I got to a point where I said, okay, I'll do this. It's the lesser of some evils that were out there. They were telling me to go towards regular mouth rinses, which have a whole host of disgusting things in them, colorings and sugar additives and whatnot. And also there's this other toothpaste that's got some other nasty things that they said, oh, this works very well. And I said, yeah, do I have to, I don't want to have that in my mouth. So I chose the other. Inefficient absorption. Deficiencies of magnesium can be attributed to low stomach acid and impaired intestinal absorption. So there are magnesium complexes, like I said, out there. There's a lot of different ones. Magnesium taurate, magnesium which is bound to taurine. Why would I choose that? Someone with heart issues or blood pressure issues, because taurine helps out with the heart. Or magnesium with malic acid, so magnesium malate. This one I would choose more so. The malic acid is anti-inflammatory, helps out with someone with fibromyalgia, or someone with a lot of extreme muscle aches and pains. Yes? Yeah, they all do, but I mean they're less versus something like calcium, or I'm sorry, if there was a magnesium oxide, that is one that's not well absorbed in the body, typically used to just as the osmotic gradient, draw water into the bowels to help the bowels move. But it doesn't really do anything systemically because it's not absorbed well. So all those forms are really good, and I would direct people just depending on what issues they had. I use the Natur-Tyme one, which is the calcium citrate. I'm sorry, it's the magnesium glycinate citrate form. So that's a well-absorbed one. And, but they do need sufficient hydrochloric acid, not a huge amount. But if someone has a lot of stress, that's going to lower your stomach acid, because when you're stressed, all the blood supply that's pooling in this area, when you're stressed, it thinks, ooh, I got to run or fight, one of those. So it just goes out to the muscles for running away or fighting. So it lowers your stomach acid. That's why a lot of people have acid reflux too. They don't realize when they're stressed out and they're eating that's coming up, because it's just not digesting well. Elderly have, as we age, everything just starts to decrease. So the stomach acidity starts to lower and the enzymes start decreasing. So if you have some issues with digestion, it would be, needed to get something more well absorbed, like some of the forms I said, or if you need something more like enzymes or betaine hydrochloric acid to help with digestion. Antacids also lower the stomach acid. So calcium carbonate cause more magnesium to be excreted. And so this is like if you were chewing Tums or Maalox, that lowers the stomach acid, and the magnesium is just not digesting and absorbing. Other factors that inhibit magnesium absorption, so a healthy versus a diseased GI tract, someone with Crohn's, colitis, celiac disease, irritable bowel issues. The amounts of calcium, phosphorus, potassium, and sodium and lactose in the diet, because they all will compete or inhibit in some manner. Supplemental iron and vice versa, taking them several hours apart, because again, there's a competition there. Foods affecting magnesium absorption. So high protein diets make the deficiency worse, because protein is making an acidic environment. So the blood wants to be pH neutral. So it will pull in things to make it more neutral, like magnesium. So it will make the deficiency worse. Tannins in tea, it binds all minerals. So higher in more bitter black and the bitter green teas. Oxalic acid, which I have another slide on after this one, talking a little bit about those. Cooking removes most oxalic acid. So you want to steam your spinach and your chard, which are typically ones that are pretty high in oxalic acid. Phytic acid, which is in the hull of seeds and bran of grains. You can remove this by soaking these for 12 hours or so. It will take out the phytic acid. And soy, fermentation, like in miso and tempeh, that reduces the levels of the magnesium absorption. Foods that inhibit mineral absorption, like I was talking about with the oxalic acid, it's also a calcium inhibitor too. So foods that you would think that would be great to get the minerals like magnesium and calcium, which would be your kale or what were the other ones I was saying that high? Spinach and chard. They actually will inhibit those minerals to be absorbed. It's just natural all in one in there. So that's why it says to steam it out. Other ones that are high in oxalic acid, rhubarb, cranberries, plums. Also, you want to be careful in general for any minerals. With so much caffeine and sugar, they inhibit mineral absorption because they create an acidic environment. Again, then your body wants to realkalize by pulling it in from the stores to realkalize the blood. So anything that's going to cause a more acidic environment is going to deplete more minerals. So drugs that contribute to magnesium deficiency, many drugs increase the demand for and utilization of magnesium. And drugs can increase acidity, there's the acidity again, or deplete the magnesium. So drugs that can deplete, your diuretics, the blood pressure ones, bronchodilators, birth control pills, insulin, digitalis, which is usually used for heart conditions, certain antibiotics like tetracycline, corticosteroids, and nicotine. So those are ones to consider. Further research is needed, and they're out there doing more of it, I believe. But some of the ones that she noted in her book that they were looking into was helping with the immune system booster because of all the things that it's involved in. Helping with seizures, which makes sense. It helps with migraines, with the nerve actions. Chronic fatigue, as I said, looking at the adrenals. Fibromyalgia, same thing. Cancers, they were looking at a certain amount of cancer. I think it was in prostate health too that they were looking at. Senility, because there tends to be, they were finding more calcium in the body later on in life. So you want to have more of the magnesium in there to help offset that, because calcium can also cause plaquing in the arteries and veins and whatnot. So requirements. So you ask, how much do you take? Well, 20 years of research shows that under ideal conditions, this is again the RDA, RDI recommended basic amounts. They're saying 300 milligrams to cover losses. That's just boop basic for certain people. It does change for women and children. Again, they're saying now for women, I think it's upwards to 350, and men are like 420 or something along that lines. But honestly, you really have to look at what's best for you. I take 600. I take 300 in the evening and 300 in the morning. And that typically is okay for me. If I start taking more, my bowels start getting, like they're a little irritated. So I keep it around the 600. I might be able to push it up to 750, but that's pretty much it. So you really have to kind of use yourself as a guinea pig. There are some people that I have that can only tolerate 100, 125, 150. Again, everybody's situation is different because everybody's on possibly different meds, different foods, whatnot. Some days I actually find that it bothers me that even the 600, I had it a couple days ago. I was really my bowels were really irritated, and I thought, gee, maybe I must have had some more foods with magnesium in there, and I just didn't need that much. But you just have to kind of play around with it a little bit. So the testing methods, which I talked a little bit about, the procedures are the standard red blood cell test, which tests the serum blood, which again, we only have 1% that's found of magnesium in the blood. So that's pretty inaccurate. It's not going to show. Most people bring their labs in and they say, well, my magnesium's fine. And I said, that really is not an indicator. So I ask them a series of questions and then usually see if they need to take some more. The EXA test, that's the buccal, that's the one where they test the cells inside the cheek. And there's also a magnesium challenge, that's a 24-hour urine collection. Those are typical standard ones that you would find in the doctor's office. And like I said, the EXA test is the one that's more, out of all those, it's the one that's the most, what do I say? It's the better standard that I would look at, the best one out of those three. Hopefully, we're going to be getting this more of the ionic mineral testing. I don't know. Again, it's very expensive and it's not readily found. So I don't know how available it is in doctor's offices. It depends on what doctor you're seeing too. So the easiest way to determine a magnesium deficiency is take it and see if the issue's resolved, like mine. The sleep was the first thing. It's almost like how homeopathics work. Depending on what is going on in your body, it'll bring things out on different levels. So sleep was the thing I was deficient with for the most part, and that rectified that night and continued. And then the twitches that I got, which were the last thing to show in me, took about a week and a half or so. They started going away very slowly, and then I noticed if I missed a dose, the morning or the evening one, I would start to get it back. And if I missed a dose like 3 days in a row, they really came back. So I really have to make sure that I take at the very minimum that 600 milligrams for myself to keep everything regulated. Yes?
Before your head hits the pillow, about how soon before you go to bed?
Oh, I usually take it maybe an hour before.
Is that a pill form?
Right, I take a pill form, but I'm going to talk about a few different forms. Yeah.
You take this,
Yep, and you can take that a half hour or so before. That's fine. It varies. You typically don't need it with food. Some people I find that they've mentioned that it's irritated their stomach. Now it depends on the form. What he was holding up was the packet that you guys have on your chairs that hopefully most people had. There's some empty chairs up here that after you can get some if you didn't. But those, the drink forms typically, that can be without food. That's just as a drink. But the pills, again, it's going to vary if it bothers your stomach. Sometimes I just take it with water and I'm done. I'm fine. So again, so if the foods cannot correct the issues and we can't address it through food stress reduction and whatnot, we need to look at some supplements. Also take into consideration You need calcium and magnesium together. Vitamin D enhances the ability to absorb magnesium. So thus, you see a lot of those formulations out there that have the three together. You do want to have those together to help out with each absorption. B1, which is thiamine, assists magnesium into the cells, and selenium helps magnesium stay in the cells when it is needed. Or, I think that's supposed to be where it's needed, into the cells. Supplements and topicals. So out there we have an end cap all about magnesium. There's all different forms out there. There's the Ionic Fizz or the Natural Calm, the Natural Calm is what you have on your chairs. That's just straight magnesium. I think it's an ionic form, and I think it's listed as citrate, or I can't remember if it says on there carbonate or citrate. But it's in a form that's readily absorbed and easily tolerated. And if you don't want to add one more pill to your regime, that's a great thing to add in. So a lot of people will say, I don't want one more pill, I just would rather drink it. Well, I used to drink those, but then I got out of the habit of it. And because I need to have it every day, I would rather just take the pill. And that's how I'm compliant. If I had to do the drinks, I would not be compliant. So you have to find out where you would be compliant, what would work best for you.
Is it unimportant for that idea that you take it out from one part of the day and magnesium the other part?
Usually bedtime for both is the best because minerals are best absorbed around nighttime that they've seen. So, well, that would typically you would want to have some magnesium and D with that, so some food rich in that I would take along with that. You don't want to just take it by itself. Trace Minerals Research has the Magnesium Plus. Oh, that's actually I think that's the Magnesium Plus. The Magnesium Citrate Glycinate, which is the Natur-Tyme one. The magnesium malate, like I said, that's specifically for someone with fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or a lot of muscle pain and strain issues. There's the threonate, which I talked about here. This is the one that's specifically crossing the blood-brain barrier. So for someone with migraines, sufferers, you would more so want to go towards something like this. I think on there it says, in preclinical studies, it performed better than other magnesium compounds for synapse support. To help facilitate learning, memory, attention, all other brain functions. So this one's called Best Brain Magnesium, and the other one, which is a similar formula, is called MagMind, and they're both out there on the end cap. Then if your bowels can't tolerate it, because I do have some people that can, there is this magnesium oil, and it's out there, and it's in a seawater base, also with magnesium in there. And also there are other things that you can look at too, like adding the Celtic sea salt too. If you want to add salt in, use that. That's going to have some more magnesium in there, or the Himalaya salt. But the magnesium oil you can put on your skin, but you can't leave it on. It says to take it off in about 20 minutes or so. You can do a magnesium bath in this as well. Just it says on there in the directions how much to put in. And then to wash off with this. But this won't affect your bowels. So if someone's already got issues and they want to have the absorption still, because 70% of what you put on your skin is absorbed through into your bloodstream. So you can use it systemically that way as well and not have to take a pill or a drink. Yeah, you can do that too. Yep, definitely. So natural sleep aids, we've already talked a little bit about this, but magnesium. Again, there's all the different forms out there, depending on which one's going to work best for you. We know how important sleep is. 50 to 70% of a million of Americans are affected by some sleep disorder. Sleep disorders have been linked to many chronic diseases such as hypertension, heart disease, stroke, depression, diabetes, and more. So let's be here with magnesium's help. Very calm and able to rest well, wake up well, nice and relaxed, and live life in a way that improves your health. And one of the great ways to start is the basic mineral of magnesium, I think. That's the basic. Now, like I said, I love using myself in a sense as a guinea pig. Not that I was trying to do it on purpose, but it was what was happening to me at the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I have to start doing with my clients is look at the basics. This was brought to me, this Magnesium Miracle book, and Carol and I talked about it when I first came back to Natur-Tyme back in '08. And I thought, oh, yeah, whatever. It wasn't like a big thing in my mind. I thought, yeah, magnesium. And I started to use it, but I really didn't look at the book too much, and I really didn't put so much merit into it until I started looking at it for myself and a lot of my other clients, and issues that I had really brought it to the forefront. And I thought, how simple this is, but yet something that's so lacking that we need so much of. So these are just some of the books that I use, and we have a lot of, we unfortunately only have about 3 of the Magnesium Miracles out there. I didn't let them know ahead of time. So we only have 3 on the end cap, but they did say that you could put an order in for it, and it would be in by Monday if you wanted the book. Stress, Anxiety, Insomnia, Michael Murray, he's got a lot of great books out there, and we have tons of his. And Adrenal Fatigue by James Wilson. Different websites. Dr. Murray's website's a great one in treating and beating, dealing with fibromyalgia. Dr. Roger Murphy. I use, like I said, a lot of magnesium for fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue sufferers, and some other information on there. So this is my number, and I do have cards out there if anybody's interested. Again, not just on this, but any other issues. You can make an appointment out there. So thank you for attending.